Hey people, hope everyone is doing okay. Let me know if the audio is fine. Been moving things a little bit around, and yeah, just let me know if you can hear me just fine. Hey folks, William Robel. Hey Fernando, any chance you'll be talking about the growing problems that the CCP is facing? Yeah, it's gonna be one of the topics. Somehow I think the prices of iPhones is about to rise. Yeah, definitely that's the case. Hello everyone from Madison Township, Ohio. Let me know how you guys had your Thanksgiving. What was it, yesterday? The day before yesterday? Anyway, it was probably pretty recent. And I mean, there's been times in which we had like a Thanksgiving dinner. Um, but yes, it's not that something that we traditionally celebrate. But any festivities or any holidays or any opportunity to spend time with loved ones is definitely worth worth having. Yeah, let's start with this one, with the one from China, and let's take it from here.
City demonstrators. China has reached the streets of Shanghai. In the country's largest city, demonstrators demanding an end to COVID lockdowns and daring to openly call for the resignation of Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Their defiance met with arrests, but it's unclear if police can stop what is now a national outcry. In Xinjiang, authorities in hazmat suits trying to hold their ground against crowds of demonstrators. The spark for the protest, a deadly apartment fire Friday night that killed 10 people, including 3 kids. Videos on social media appearing to show emergency crews slowed down by COVID measures around the high-rise. It took 3 hours to put out the flames. Residents, many of them locked down in Xinjiang for 3 months, were trapped. Xi Jinping has never faced public anger on this scale in his 10 years in power. China's government had tried tweaking zero-COVID rules to help the economy. But with cases now at a record high, they're bearing down once again, crushing hopes of a gradual reopening. In Zhengzhou this week, there were clashes at the Foxconn factory making iPhones. Videos on social media showed crowds of police shoving workers angry about bonus pay and COVID rules at the plant. Foxconn apologized and gave payouts to workers wanting to leave, forcing Apple to warn that iPhone output will take a hit. The future of China's COVID policy now a test of will between the people and the government.
Now, in the last few minutes, NBC News has received videos from an eyewitness in Shanghai showing protesters are once again gathering at the same spot, once again being met by a heavy police presence. So, Willie, this isn't over yet.
Yeah.
Raf Sanchez covering this.
Yeah. Anyway, I think it's quite interesting to see this in China, and I have my thoughts on this. I think that people will naturally tend towards the ideals that we have here in the West, the idea that you should not have a dictator in power, the idea that having a supreme leader or an authoritative, an authoritarian leader of any kind is never good. So this is something that I feel is, I mean, this is why, and segueing into the Russia thing, this is why former Soviet countries don't want to go back to being Soviet countries. It's a very natural thing to want more freedom, not to be oppressed and having less freedom. So there's there's no single Soviet country that willingly goes back under the wing of communism and the former Soviet Union, or the uprising, revived Soviet Union. It's a very natural thing. And whenever you have the two options, because this is something else that we have to understand, you cannot be the little fish in the pond, especially when you're trapped between two big fishes. If not, one of those will probably eat you. So when you see what happened in Ukraine, when you see what recently happened in Moldova, I have a video ready next regarding that. Russia is moving towards taking over Moldova. They already have that little sliver of Transnistria where they have their military base. as always, try to take over, steal territory and countries by force. But they have to do it by force because people willingly don't fall for that. And the recent sanctions or shutdowns of energy for Moldova are as punishment because a pro-Europe government won last year in Moldova. So that's punishing Moldova for not wanting to be Soviet. And the more you do these things, the more negative reaction you have, the more people oppose to the idea of submitting to a Soviet regime. And the same is in the case of China. When you see these images of people that, I mean, Chinese people are fairly submissive. They just take it from the government without questioning much. So when you see the images like this, it's because they've reached a breaking point. Now, it is true that you can continue into this, sliding towards complete, absolute submission to the government, which in the case of China, they're pretty much already there. But, how far can you push people? How much poverty can you force upon people and stuff like this? A building burning and the authorities not even responding because of the COVID restriction, and the government just getting more and more heavy-handed. It's the same thing with Russia. People don't want to live this way. I mean, we could get all conspiracy theory here and go into, well, these are CIA operatives working in China and promoting unrest. Could it be? Yeah, I guess it could be. Yeah, I'm not saying it's not possible. I'm saying, yeah, it perfectly could be the case that you have some people operating in Russia so as to destabilize the communist regime currently in China. That would be in the interest of the United States, and it would be in the interest of the West in general. More likely, it would be U.S. having assets operating in China, just like China has assets operating in the United States and Europe and everywhere else. But in spite of all of that, yeah, the original OSOC it says, let's get conspirational. Yeah. I mean, yeah, these are not conspiracies. These are facts. Of course, nations do have assets in our countries working towards their interests, gathering data, information, working people, getting dirt on people so as to put pressure when needed. Yeah, that always happens. But you don't get a country to overthrow the government if there's not enough support from the people. If people are not fed up with whatever it is you've been doing, if people are not in that breaking point, then no matter what players you have, you're not going to be changing much. United States has always had people. You think United States hasn't got anyone working in Venezuela, and in spite of that, the socialist, Marxist regime in Venezuela still stands. Why? Well, United States didn't want it to be there. Yes, United States would love to get rid of Maduro and put a pro-U.S. government in place. And probably the people of Venezuela, to a large extent, would like that. But they don't have enough critical mass in the population to oppose that Marxist regime. In the case of Ukraine, I don't know if people fully understand in the United States how much pro-Europe and pro-West people in Ukraine already were. People in Russia are very much pro-West. If you look at some of the cool things in Russia, anything cool, young, anything that is considered modern, it's always Western. It's nothing traditional Russia, let alone traditional Russian political views and stances on freedom and communism. That is old, it's old. It just stinks of humidity and moist and past. And future generations definitely support a lot more the ideas that they see on the internet, on TV, mostly the internet these days. But this is the same effects that you have in your own countries, in the West in general. The same thing happens to anyone that has a phone. Anyone that has internet connection can go online, and in spite of all the restrictions, they can see how other people live. And you know how they want to live, guys? Do you know how Chinese, how Russians, how Ukrainians, how people in India, how people in Africa, how they want to live? Like Western nations, like developed Western nations. That's why they like that. That's why they imitate that. And that's why whenever they're giving the choice of going back to the Soviet times, no, they would rather go into Western European American kind of lives. That's why Moldova elected, a pro-European government that's trying to get themselves into the European Union. Oh, but it's a globalist. Yeah, you know what? Very globalist. But at the end of the day, the quality and standards of living that you have from that are much better than just being a stooge from Russia. So all of these things are why you see the current political waves that you see, including China. These people on the streets in China right now, you think they want to be oppressed? They want to live this way, having all of these hazmat guys ruling over them with a communist regime just dictating the way they live? You think that honestly people want to live this way? As bad as the United States is, as bad as Europe is, you think it's better to live this way in a communist regime? You have to be nuts. You have to be insane to think for even a second that a communist regime or a dictatorship of any kind is better than a political system that allows you to enjoy the rights that we often take for granted, unfortunately, way too often. These guys with those little phones that the people, these guys in Foxconn are actually building for you and me, right? And for themselves. That's the trick. That's the thing. It's for themselves, right? It's for themselves. They built some of these things for themselves, and now they're using them. And as they're using their fancy, woke iPhones, they're seeing a different world, and they like that different world that they're seeing. Anyway, let me go through, some of the comments. Let's get all conspirational. Conscious movie reviews. Thanks for the comment. This is Xi Jinping's plan to create authoritarian and isolation. Guangzhou area is not so submissive. Many Chinese people pissed off for not getting paid to work or use a bank. Well, that's the natural instinct of people, right? Even though at a certain level, people do have an instinct of following the leader, right? That's why you need some kind of leader that hopefully you had an option of participating in some extent as of who represents you, as imperfect as these things often end up being. But that's what people naturally want. That's what people naturally gravitate towards. Better quality of life, better standards of living, having fun, having access to cool things, to good things, not being submitted by an authoritarian regime such as the one that you see in these countries. Carefully folding my REFERRAL survival knife, fondling my REFERRAL survival knife while watching the Ozark. Yeah, I have mine over there. I build a little stand for mine, so I have it over there, and I have my K-bar, my World War II K-bar right about there. So yeah, I have those. I'm so glad that you like the knife so much, man. Much appreciated. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of it. So, and yeah, and to be completely honest, it is still going for a nice price, under $200 for very high quality steel. You don't see those very often. A full tang 7-inch blade or so with N680 boiler steel. That's not all that common. Yes, that's on the same line of the steel used by Extrema Ratio, which is what, $300-400 knives. Yeah, and also not made in China or any crap like that. Made in Spain by Aitor. Yeah, super proud of that. Anyway, you can get your BMW engine computer chips from Moldova. I didn't know that. Thumbs up, Sam Frisky. Glad to be here. I value the intelligence report analysis. Thanks, Fernando. Lock me down. Tell me when it's over. What technocracy looks like. I do. Yeah, well, these guys, they at the same time, you look at countries like Venezuela, where people have slowly slowly slided into socialism, into old school communism, Marxism. That the Soviet style of communism that you see in places like Cuba, that you're seeing rise in different parts of Latin America. Unfortunately, Lula is bringing back to Brazil too, and it's all aligned with Russia. Russia with their Soviet empire ambitions and the way they're operating now in Moldova. They are doing their best effort to impose themselves on a global scale. I mean, can you blame them? Yes, we can. And I make no I don't beat up around the bush with this. Yes, you can blame them for it because they do it in a brutal, violent fashion. So at the same time that Moldova wants to join the European Union, as much as you may like it or not, that's their choice. The same way Ukraine wants to join the European Union and any other country that wants to join, and in countries that are already in it. In countries like Italy, where you have a prime minister like Meloni, who is great, she's fantastic, but she's not saying I'm leaving European Union. No, I'm staying and I'm having things my way, and hopefully we will have enough critical mass so as to have something that represents what we really think about, and not just have a bunch of left-wing politicians that always manage to climb to the top and run things their way. So that's what you do. You don't become a little fish in a pond of big fish, which is the world right now. If you are a small player on your own, you're done. You have the United States, you have the European Union, you have China, even Russia is falling apart on their own, like they did before, by starting a war that they shouldn't have started in the first place, and be happy with what they had managed to get in 2014. Anyway, moving for let's get to this one. I want to show you guys this. This is from DW. This is from
For now,
yeah.
lunch is being served in the children's home in Leova in western Moldova.
So this is from DW. This is the official German news channel. Right, let's go with this one.
It's still warm in the dining room, for now. Lunch is being served in the children's home in Leova in western Moldova, but director Catalina Postica is worried about the winter. Energy and food prices are rising, and she fears for the children's well-being. It's a similar situation across the country. Moldova's pro-European administration is a thorn in Moscow's side, so Russia is wielding its most effective weapon, gas. Russia controls the breakaway region of Transnistria, where gas is used to produce electricity. Normally, this covers 2/3 of Moldova's power needs. Demand is high because the entire country uses electric heating. Even buses are electric. Now Russia has cut gas exports, claiming that Moldova has failed to make payments.
Never ever Gazprom has raised this issue of stop supplying because of not payment in term. Now, since August last year, then
so Gazprom is the nationalized, the official. Gazprom is the national Russian energy giant. Gazprom is the one that sells gas all over the world. So they're cutting the gas to Moldova because they're having more pro-European politicians being elected. This is what the people in this country want to aim for, and as punishment, Russia is killing them with energy.
Pro-European government is in office. We have paid absolutely all in time all our bill.
The energy crisis is a threat to Moldova's existence. That's one reason why the president of the European Commission rushed to the Moldovan capital, Chisinau, to promise aid to the country. After all, Moldova is now an EU candidate.
That woman, she's so weak. She's, just you need someone running things that is someone that has more power, that's smarter in the way, this woman is just...
Winter is just around the corner, and it can be long and cold in Leova. People here are already spending over half their income just on energy.
Half their income in energy. That's what Russia's doing to these people.
We've already received a gas bill. It seems way too high.
I took out a bank loan and bought wood. This month, all of my income is going towards bills and the loan.
This is critical in terms of preparedness, guys. Besides, and it's very sad for people in Moldova that are suffering, yet again, Russia, which is, putting hurt on neighboring nations and even not neighboring nations, because Moldova is even further west to Ukraine, and as it says in the article, it's moving towards moving towards Europe. Russia keeps moving and trying to annex, take over, and pretty much have territory closer and closer to the west. But besides that, the way in which these people are suffering the prices of energy, that's a survival lesson on its own. Having to take what she said, a bank loan.
I took out a bank loan and bought wood. This month, all of my income is going towards bills and the loan.
So she's taking a bank loan to buy wood. How critical is having fuel? Now, nationwide, on a national level, your energy independence crucial, and this terrible mistake, the tragic mistake that Europe as a whole, which is something that sometimes people get confused, the idea that, Europe is a bunch of different countries. And even within the European Union, you have countries that have full sovereignty. This is not a shared sovereignty like in the United States. This is full sovereignty like in the case of UK. You can just say, I'm out of here, and you go on your separate ways. So never forget that each country can at any moment decide to do that. Of course, the decisions on a European level also matter for each member, but the strategic mistake of relying so much on Russia, never fully understanding which a massive mistake it was to put so much power on a man that is by any definition a dictator and has always been that. So even though Putin had more of a positive image at some point, he was still a former KGB dictator, a man that should not have been trusted. And when you use Russia's cheap energy so as to build and grow your own economy, this is maybe good, a good present, but you're investing so much and you're putting too much power on something that could come back and bite you in the face, not even in the ass, just eat your face off, which is what Russia has been doing. And a country like this, like Moldova, is particularly exposed to something like this, because at the end of the day, Europe can buy energy elsewhere, can go up in price, they can subsidize it, they can pay for it, they can get around it. Which is what they've been doing. The idea that, Europe is going to be freezing this winter. No, there's already more than enough fuel to go around. I was watching some of the prepper channels that are always pushing the fear agenda. They're just misinformed. I mean, they have nothing to support some of the claims that they're making. But still, critical mistake. But on a personal level, how important it is to have energy. Again, a woman that is saving, she got a bank loan to buy firewood. If you depend so much on your own energy so as to not freeze in winter, then, man, the idea of having your own homestead, having your own place, having your own firewood, having the ability to, self-sustain yourself in such a scenario, critical, of course. preparedness 101, don't freeze to death. Preparedness 101 would also be don't be in a place where you can easily freeze to death, which is at least the way I plan things. I've lived in very cold places. I've lived in very warm places, somewhere in between. And the strategic advantage of simply not having to worry about, freezing to death in winter, that is a nice bonus. And it usually comes along with very nice climate for growing your own food as well, and having your own food production, limited, extended, potential to grow later on. But if you have a good climate, so as to not freeze to death, so as to have your own food, so as to have a source of water that you can rely on, all of these things are critical. Now, are they the end-all solution for all things prepping? No, they're not. There's other things. There's other tools in the modern world that we live that are even more important. A person that has financial means beyond what this woman has, she can pay for the wood. He can pay for the expensive Gazprom Russian energy, and he can even get out of there. He doesn't want to be there anymore. That, at least for me, is one of the more powerful tools that you really have in what is practical survival and preparedness, right? So yeah, hey, Knockface, as always, Knockface being a hero here for the channel. Much appreciated, man. Your super chat, really thank you for it. Every weekend, man, Knockface is there. REFERRAL, the big underreported story this week is Elon Musk taking over Twitter. Well, Knockface, he actually bought Twitter. He didn't just take it over. So let's be fair. Now, one little detail that I think often goes unmentioned: Elon Musk bought Twitter with a large percentage. I think it's like 30% of the money he used to buy Twitter coming from banks and other financial institutions. 30%, I think it was banks. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I think that the money in Twitter is 30% banks. That means that even though Elon Musk is the face of Twitter and the actual owner of Twitter right now, he has a huge responsibility to these bankers that gave him the money so as to actually buy Twitter. 30% is a chunk of money. Musk went from savior of the human race, Tony Stark, to Adolf Hitler overnight. Very similar to Trump, in my opinion. Opinions on the future of Twitter. That's a good question, and yeah, I agree with you. He's the darling of the left when he makes electric cars. Which, by the way, is Elon Musk a hero? Is he Tony Stark because SpaceX? How easily manipulated we are. How many of you guys think that green energy subsidized by governments is a good thing? Let me know in the comments. Who's the first one to leave a comment there saying, yes, Fernando, I think that the U.S. government should finance green energy and climate change fighting electric vehicles? No one. No one thinks that the government should even spend a cent in that. Yet, Elon Musk got all his money for Tesla from the U.S. government. Maybe not all, but a massive, massive percentage of the money Elon Musk has, both for SpaceX and for Tesla, is straight out of the U.S. government. The U.S. government, in many ways, the U.S. government and the elite that is really behind the U.S. government is the one financing Elon Musk. So is he this hero? I think he's just a very clever guy, especially when it comes to doing business and making money. And he's serving certain interests that I don't think reflect the interests of he's not the savior of mankind. I honestly don't think that in any way. I think he wasn't that when he was, just doing SpaceX and Tesla and trying to build, tunnels for cars in LA, the Hyperloop or whatever it was. I mean, stupid things that don't make any sense, and he still gets money for that. Why? How? What's the point of all of that? No, he has a sense of humor. I'll give him that. I think it's, and yes, I think that eventually we will see a lot more electric cars. But where is the energy for those electric cars coming from? The idea of, instead of having a car that uses fossil fuels and has a diesel engine running, like my car has a diesel engine, the idea that it's more efficient to run a giant a giant generator in whatever power plant and then charge a battery as if it was a freaking phone, only to then run your car. I think that's one of the most wasteful uses of carbon, of fossil fuels, which is what we're seeing now. And those batteries, how do you even get rid of those things? Imagine how the grid will hold when every single house has an electric vehicle being charged. I think that an electric car uses up like a 1,000 refrigerator or something like that in terms of peak power. Anyway, I don't even think that the grid is ready for that, but that's how it goes. So is he Hitler or Tony Stark? Man, I think he's just yet another very rich guy that he has alliances with governments and institutions. Most of all, institutions. Governments don't really run much these days. They just do the bidding of whoever is financing and putting them in office. When you have politicians, especially in the United States, each politician that is financed by the same elites, even on both sides. And you mentioned Trump. Well, I don't think that Trump was any kind of hero either. He did things that some of us likes. He did all those things that some of us don't like that much. Like his stance on guns was pretty horrible. The idea that the NRA is afraid of him and he just bans bump stocks and he he was laughing along with Feinstein and that horrible clip of hers like having like a freaking orgasm next to Trump because they were screwing over the gun owners. Anyway, I would put my vote on DeSantis. I know that some of you love him. I know that some of you hate him and think he's a devil. I think that he showed a level of courage and guts when going against Disney that is admirable, and you wouldn't see Trump doing any of that. Trump does not mess with BlackRock. he just he doesn't mess with that sort of thing, and DeSantis did. Anyway, let me go through some of the comments because they're kind of getting a bunch of those. Working on next year's firewood today. Yeah, good idea. Owning 30 acres of forest has its advantages. Yes, of course it does. Of course it does. I think it's you have to make up your mind about what is it that you want. Now, if you're going to be living in cold weather environments, yeah, that's something that you definitely want to have. If I was living in a very cold place, especially in winter, I would put extra emphasis on having a little bit of land, having some trees so as to provide for your own firewood. Only thing I don't have nailed down is water. The original oak sock. I'd like an atmospheric water generator. Oh yeah. But man, those are the original oak sock. Those are pretty high tech, expensive solutions. If you get like a huge cistern, one of those big concrete deposits. That's one of the ways. Ideally, you would have some sort of gravity-fed water source or a good well. A well, man. And I had wells even in the city. Well, what I would call the city. Some of you maybe more of a suburb, maybe. But yeah, having your own well, that is, I had both city water and my own well. And that was a big relief. You just have to run a bit of a pump there, and that's great. And you could go with a treasure, but having the well on its own is massive. I have 2,000 watt solar generator, so I could easily add the 500 watt atmospheric water gen. Okay. Buy cats and dogs. They are very warm. Zach, that was actually advice, and no joke. Zach says buy cats and dogs. They're very warm. The British government was telling people to hug their pets so as to stay warm. How terrible are things in UK now that the government is telling that to people in a country where approximately 30,000 citizens, between 30 and 40,000 citizens die because of fuel poverty, because of not being able to heat their homes. And these are not random stories. I actually knew a person that had that happen. I knew a person that living next door to me, big house and all, she could not afford to heat her home in UK, right? In UK, lady next door, very nice lady and all, she had to heat just certain rooms because she could not afford to heat her entire house, and it's big house and all. Yeah, even for a McMansion American standard, still somewhat like an American, nice suburb, middle class or upper middle class size of house, give or take, 2-story, nice brick, actual nice brick, not siding, but nice brick house. She could not afford it. A house worth I don't even know how much, but she could not afford to heat her house, and her husband had died the year before. Anyway, stuff like that, stories, all of these numbers, it actually reflects on real people. Random things 33. I use water barrels and have heaters in them. It will at least always have clean water to drink, even in winter. Yeah, and water is crucial. If you can have, if you have the room so as to have enough water storage, that's something worth doing. Buying them is seems to what I'm going to be buying a couple 1,000-liter tanks. Yeah, buy those things, build them. If you can build a concrete water deposit, even better. But yes, Elon is going to build up Twitter to include a monetary alternative and other services. Yeah, that's what I read about him, and that's probably why he got so much money from bankers. So is it always all cool with Elon Musk? Yeah, I like his Cybertruck. I think that Cybertruck looks actually very cool, and that would be one of the only electric vehicles I'd actually like to have. It's bulletproof, which is awesome. It was like $30,000. It's not really even that expensive. $40,000, is it? Was it 40,000? Anyway, it was ridiculously affordable for a armored vehicle that runs on an electric armored vehicle. Anyway, Musk is crisis actor. Shale Maloney says friend Agni. Yes, I do, Jared. What about the question that you think it's a good idea? Well, that's your opinion. I think that the government should not be financing something like why is the government financing a billionaire? I mean, if the government is gonna spend billions of your money so as to make something like that, why do you make it yourself? Have like a branch of the government make it. I mean, it's your money to begin with. Why not keep it a national company that is developing an electric car? I mean, if you're going to be using my money for doing that, yeah, you might as well do something that stays in what, at least in theory, should remain in the hands of everyone. Why give a multi-millionaire that's already so successful? Why is it that you're giving him our money to build these things? Build it with your own money. You're so bright, you're so smart, and you have the best electric vehicle that everyone will want to run and buy from your hands and take it. Okay, go do that with your own money. You're making the iPhone, and people will run and take my money, kind of thing. Yeah, sure, do that. You wrote Harry Potter, and people give you billions of dollars. More power to you. I love that. I love capitalism. You know what's not capitalism? Transferring money from the public into private hands like that. That is Russia kind of Soviet corruption. The Soviet for taking money from people, capitalist when it comes to monetizing on the transfer of money from public to private like that. Choose one, man. You cannot do both and pretend to be a capitalist. If you're a real capitalist, you do things with your own money, not from public subsidizing. Anyway, and I get it that to some point, having some subsidizing of certain elements that could have a great benefit for people, sure. What is it I'm getting in return for that? Do I keep some shares of that? Does the U.S. government keep 10%? 15, 20? I mean, I gave you billions of dollars. What am I keeping from my money? as a representative of the entire American population. The American people give you $10 billion for you to make electric cars. You get what in return? To make all the money for yourself? No one gets any share on any of that? Anyway, just stuff to think about. You already have the tech for free energy, so the question is, moot man, that is crazy talk. The conspiracy theory of already free energy for everyone. Yeah, what, a perpetual motion machine and that kind of thing. Exactly why they knew green revolution is evil. Yeah, I think that. And there's always points in between. Do I think that polluting the environment is good? No, I've lived in Argentina where that was what every company got away with, and it sucks. You don't know how bad it is when everyone just dumps anything into your rivers, into your streams. You don't want to have that. You don't want to be India. You don't want to be China. You want to have a government that does prevent that from happening. But using the climate change, green energy, environment bullshit lies so as to not protect the environment from pollution, which is something that you definitely want to happen, but give money to Elon Musk to make Tesla, that's completely different. Or financing Greta Thunberg, a little journey across the planet and her own bullshit stuff, or financing, even worse, using the climate change bullshit narrative so as to finance buying energy from Russia while closing down your own nuclear plants. Yeah, that's definitely a bad idea. I love Rumble, Green Revolution, conscious movie reviews. The government agencies need a front, so they make influential people like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, Jay-Z, Kardashians. Yeah, I think there's a lot of that. Conscious movie review. I think you're on the right track. They do these things, and it wasn't us. It's Elon Musk. What? How much does an electric car cost? 50K, 100? Well, it's a private company. He can charge whatever he wants. Wait a minute, isn't a private company that I finance? How does even that work? CV Musk, yeah, he's also building squabs. Neuralink, yes, yeah, that's gonna be fun, right? Jim Pants, exactly. He's building the flamethrower, and we'll look, or he goes into Twitter, and now everyone, look how the left, is twisting and suffering. Well, are they really? Is it that much of a, or is it just part of this bipolar narrative of the bipartisan thing of, the government finances the woke left agenda. The government also finances and is part of the, look at how Elon Musk is now going all right wing in Twitter. Yeah. Right now, rather than Brandon, the original was like, I would be very happy to have Trump right now rather than Brandon. Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah. I don't know. I'm not much of a Trump fan. Yeah, I think that if we go back, what is it that Trump did during the pandemic? Light speed, warp speed. What the hell was it called? I mean, Trump had Fauci there. Am I crazy? Have I been seeing things? Wasn't Fauci next to Trump with all the bullshit that we all saw? That was Trump, right? I'm not insane. I'm not crazy. Yeah, they did that. Conscious movie review. Trump could have easily said, you know what? We're not going to be rushing things. We'll take things carefully. No. Medicines and drugs, you have to go through a process like all others ever in history, and we're not pushing this out of the labs without proper testing. We're not doing this. We are doing this other thing. You can go for a more DeSantis approach of keeping everything open and not falling for the pharmaceuticals, falling for or aiding in the robbery that was this entire sham. Yeah. Anyway, Fernando, I have been hearing about food shortages in Spain. True or fiction? That is 100% fiction, man. You can pretty much trust me on that. Yeah, it's completely fiction and fabricated. Food shortages. This is the kind of thing that people hear, repeat, and people end up believing it's true. that there are food shortages in Spain. I can tell you there's no food shortage anywhere in Europe, not even in UK. And I have family in UK. I lived there for quite some time, so I know exactly how it is right now in UK. No, there's no food shortage in UK, even though food is expensive. And there is people that are really struggling, even more than what the media is saying. That much I can tell you. But there's no food shortages. If you have the money, as it's usually the case, if you have the money, you can pay for it. People starved to death in Argentina. If you had the money, you could afford it. People that were struggling more may had to make some changes in their diet. Maybe not so much asado, which is something that we traditionally eat a lot in Argentina. So yeah, if people, it was not pleasant for even people with somewhat of a good standard of living. But you get through with that. Dogs are like heaters. Yeah, I mean, it is bad. And thanks, Knockface, for another super chat, man. $5, much appreciated. The original Osag, thanks for a super chat. You too. Happy early Christmas. Buy Fernando's books, peeps. Yeah, folks, you have my books are usually, let me change there that I have, my books are over there, right? And if you bought them already, much appreciated your support. But really, I think that it's really helping out for what's happening all over the world now. And I guess that my first book addresses more the changes in lifestyle and how you have to adapt to getting by with less money, right? The same still holds the idea of reducing your expenses as much as possible, squeezing each buck as much as you can, cutting down on needless stuff. At the same time, there's certain changes you can make. The amount of people, there's things that I take for granted that for other people, I was talking with someone the other day that they have a kitchen that they've never used. You've never cooked food in your kitchen in a house you've been living for years? No, we always buy takeout. We always go out to eat. That is expensive, and that's not exactly healthy either. So learn to cook. You don't need anything too fancy, even basic stuff. A freaking bag of rice, white rice, cooked, bowl, that's going to be one of the healthiest meals you could possibly have. Oh, it hasn't got all the nutrients. It hasn't got, yeah, sure, but you probably have more than enough nutrients in your Western body than you need, way more than you probably need. So why even do that? I just, for example, today I completely skipped dinner, nothing, just about 4 or 5 p.m. That was it. And with my wife, we're getting into the intermittent fasting thing. So as to, and it works. You feel so much better, man. If you haven't done it before, try skipping dinner. Breakfast, lunch, that's it. You don't need anything else. Maybe if you want to have like a tea or something at 4 or 5 p.m. or whatnot. But there's no point in eating too much. The only people you're benefiting are the the pharmaceuticals and big agro. We have free energy devices out there, but many are not designed in a practical way for every. I don't. The only thing, a conscious movie review. The only thing I've seen regarding that is the continual motion machine or some of this engines. I haven't seen anything that was really technology that makes free energy. Just, I mean, it goes against basic laws of physics. So. Second, that Street Survival Skills is the best one and done survival book out there. Thanks, man. T2BRFU. Yeah, that was the intent. The intent was for that. What is it? That book, Street Survival Skills. The intent was for that book to be that. And if you bought my first one, if you bought the Modern Survival Manual and you haven't bought Street Survival Skills, I really intended it to be like go-to survival book. And there's a lot of things. I'm actually working on the translation of Surviving the Economic Collapse of my first one, the one over there. I'm working on the translation of that one for the Spanish crowd. But I worked first on the translation of Street Survival Skills because I knew it was more important for people in Latin America to get. Explaining to people in Latin America what going through an economic collapse is like. they still want to read it. They're still asking for me to translate the book, but I know that many of the things are what they experience themselves. Even though I have my own take on things, and many of the things I did is not what most people did. But I've learned so much over the years that it's not reflected in street survival skills, and I do include that in street survival skills, and not what I had by the time I wrote Surviving the Economic Collapse. Since surviving the economic collapse, I lived in different countries, took classes with different instructors from different parts of the world on different disciplines. You always learn something from someone, even if it's a shotgun, a practical shotgun class in UK with people that are on a very different path. There's still something to be learned there. And just, over so many years, Street Survival Skills is a much more complete book in terms of the practical stuff that you can actually put to good use if you ever need it. Anyway, yeah, enough self-promotion, but yeah, this is what I do, man. This is the stuff I work on, and I'm working on more things as well. And yeah, his books are the point, and excellent. Thanks, man. Much appreciated, really. Hit the like. Yeah. Indeed, Osaka, Trump 2.5 gallons beats Brandon 5.5. Well, you know what? Joe Biden, he's a left-wing politician. Or Joe Biden is not much of anything. I think that Joe Biden was a horrible person. I think he's already, and I don't mean like an insult. He is a shell of a man, and he's not running anything. He's not running the country. It's probably more Obama and all of that left-wing current politicians in the Democratic Party and the elite that runs them, the companies behind them that they're running things. But with enough of a socialist, stain to it, that they just, they cannot help themselves. They always ruin the economy by printing money, or printing or creating by emitting more money than the economy can hold, and they just cannot help themselves. Socialists always have the worst take when it comes to fighting inflation. They always make it worse. Anyone from Georgia? We had 1.8 and let it. I'm looking at that too, Fernando. I need to quit drinking beer in the eve. Yeah, stop drinking. I have a beer every once in a while. I have some alcohol there. I just bought it because of the colors of the bottles, and I think that it's hilarious that you can have like alcohol, the Green Devil thing. I just thought it was funny. I never had even a single sip of that stuff. I just don't drink much alcohol at all. I bought like 4 bottles of good wine that was way too expensive, maybe for a gathering at some point, but I just don't drink. And when I have a beer, it's one beer, just that's it. And it can go months before I have any alcohol at all. Maybe in a couple of weekends, I do have a beer with a pizza or something like that, but very rarely. Anyway, running out of time already, but I want to move. Just got 5. Oh yeah, the lady from
yesterday, in which Russian President Putin talks to alleged Russian mothers.
It's from later. Let me add this first.
Things are hard everywhere. We'll survive, but I'd hoped it would be easier.
The old man has the right attitude. He has some gold teeth there, but we will survive. Things are tough. Yeah.
The situation is especially dire for the most vulnerable.
And steer them down the right path.
Well, anyway, you get the point on the Moldova thing. I want to show you guys this. This is from, this is Russia propaganda at its best or at its worst. Having Putin had a fake Russian soldiers' mothers. And one of them, I think it was this one that she had like my son died asking for a bombing. He like his son died while asking for a strike in the area that he was. So he died like a hero. Turns out it's all bullshit. All of it. This man, he really has no shame.
Them saying how sorry he is that.
Check this out.
The Russian propaganda machinery published a video yesterday, in which Russian President Putin talks to alleged Russian mothers and even cries in front of them, saying how sorry he is that their sons died in Ukraine. But since everything in the Russian narrative is fake, this video is also totally fake, and now there is evidence for it.
Check this out. I know that some people are, check this propaganda out.
Here FSB officer Voida, who turns out to be a soldier's mother in a meeting with Putin.
She's everywhere. She has actors following him.
We have already published these pictures with the same people on all Russian propaganda videos. This Russian fake mother claimed that her son died in recent fighting in Ukraine, but it was discovered that he died 2019. Just to paraphrase, they bring in fake mothers with fake sons talking about fake deaths while 80,000 Russian soldiers died in Ukraine.
Anyway, and yeah, he's probably bonking her. Probably something else. They don't allow any woman standing that is taller than Putin. And Putin is like 5'4" or something like that. He's just a very short guy. And yes. But he hasn't got propaganda on both sides. But you know what's the difference? The propaganda is not the same when you are the aggressor than when you are someone defending yourself, right? So I completely understand why you would, and the way in which the ghost of Kiev, that was a propaganda from Ukraine. Yeah. Now having fake mothers of dead soldiers, when you actually have probably thousands upon thousands of real mothers with real dead soldiers, they're throwing Russians into a meat grinder. You know what they're doing? They're having the convicts from prison and thrown at the front line, and the more experienced soldiers are on the back, shooting the ones that are retreating. Tactics that you haven't seen since World War II. A tactic that you thought was from the past. That's what they're doing right now. It is amazing, but they're shooting their own people if they're not moving forward. So, the Russian thing is terrible, and as soon as it ends, better for everyone. At the same time, it's in the best interest of the United States to extend this as much as possible. Each passing day that the war in Ukraine goes on, Russia becomes weaker. Any soldier that dies in Ukraine, any Russian soldier that dies in Ukraine benefits the United States. Every tank that is blown up, every missile that they throw into Ukraine, it's one less missile that Russia has. Anything that weakens Russia benefits U.S. by large, by any stretch of the imagination. It's that's also something that benefits the economy of the United States. So unfortunate, but it is what it is. Anyway, I thought it was particularly messed up that he has a bunch of fake actors following him around and pretending to be people that like him, because he doesn't even trust anyone to be that close. So that's probably why he has these people, these actors right next to him all the time. Anyway, guys, that's gonna be all for now. Thanks for being here. Much appreciated your support in the channel. So yeah, asado. Yeah, the original Osak. Asado is what you guys call barbecue, but much better. So an asado is with actual cuts of the cow from different body parts. Even certain organs would go into a proper asado, and it's all prepared. Find a place asiado, not asiado. Find it in the United States. You probably have Argentine asado restaurants. Any Argentine restaurant in US will likely do good asado. So, and it's different from Mexican asado, not the same thing. But treat yourself a little bit to that. You'll probably like it. It's actually quite good. Trump is like Jerry Jones, just as many negatives as positives. You don't have to, you shouldn't fall for anyone very hard. And of course, there's politicians that we like more or less, but they're all still politicians, unfortunately. Propaganda, yes. Anyway, guys, much appreciated, and see you next weekend, okay? We do have an Argentine restaurant, but they have the meat on the swords kind of thing. Yeah, that is, it could be meat on the swords. Like steaks. Give it a try. If it's a good Argentine restaurant and you like meat, you're in for a treat. Folks, see you on our next live stream next weekend. Take care.